Hello, everyone. Firstly, on behalf of SuneraTech, a very warm welcome to all the participants. My name is Srikanth Bekumanla. I head the SAP Higher Education portfolio at SuneraTech. The current panel discussion is an attempt to understand how the leading universities are transforming their business model and accelerating their digital strategy, besides being flexible in managing and delivering education during the pandemic. Before we discuss, let me play you a short video to give you an overview of the SAP and SuneraTech solutions for higher education. We have 4 education leaders joining this panel to deliberate on this topic. I would like to especially thank Dr. Malcolm Woodfield, Global Vice President, Head of Industry Business Unit for Higher Education and Research at SAP. Malcolm, thank you very much for graciously agreeing to moderate today's panel discussion. We also have Dr. Nishanth Rodrigues, Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj, and Dr. Lohit Kapoor. I would request audience to post the questions in the chat box, which will be answered by the panelists at the end of the discussion. Malcolm, over to you.
Hello, my name is Malcolm Woodfield, and I lead the Higher Education and Research practice at SAP. Here today with some of our customers to talk about some of the critical trends, drivers, focus areas that universities are facing today, particularly, of course, in light of the COVID crisis, both responding to it and planning for the post-COVID environment. So I posed some questions to our customers and invited them to discuss which of these were most pressing for them, or if there are completely different ones, obviously to focus on those. And I asked them about three or four areas. One, the whole area of student engagement and student success, obviously in light of the move to online learning, but also some of the more technical aspects of that. For example, how to carry out assessment of student success, how to proctor exams and that kind of thing. So some technical issues, but also some obviously associated business questions. I also asked about what I call financial resilience, right? Or because universities with falling enrollments, falling tax base, and so on, have really been affected financially. And so I think a major question, both currently and going forward, is how to manage that, how to optimize resources, and so on. Thirdly, how to maintain the university reputation, which depends, for example, on student success. Also depends on research output. Research has been very difficult, obviously, to continue. You can't set up a lab in your basement and work from home. So that whole question of how do you maintain, if you like, the brand, I think is a very critical strategic question. Maybe not a day-to-day question, but a strategic issue. And on the same strategic side, how do you maintain your competitive difference between other institutions? Are you having to really rethink your, if you like, business model, rethink your your offerings, your curriculum, your market, so to speak, to differentiate yourself. So, and that is obviously very closely aligned with reputation. So those are four kind of areas that I think what I'm seeing are very critical. And then secondly, I pose the question of the digital journey. Right now, universities globally have really embarked on the journey to digitization many years ago, digitizing courseware, assets, libraries, and so on, digitizing the back office, which is what we manage, so to speak. So processes like procurement and so on have been to a great extent digitized. That's really just the beginning. And there are two areas I think that are of particular interest. One is the increasing use of automation, of intelligent technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on, that build on the digital platform, right? You have to have that digitization in place. You have to have that data available. Machine learning doesn't work, as it were, without data. Data drives that and fuels it. And secondly, thinking again, going back to my first questions, the new business model, right? Taking again that digital platform, which is now very flexible, highly integrated. That's an opportunity to now think about: are we doing business in the best way? Are we using best business practices? Should we be looking at other industries? Retail, for example, has become quite influential in higher education, and so on. So the other, then my second area there of question was, and so I invite the panel to give us their perspective on the trends and challenges they're facing and the solutions that they're looking for or implementing. So maybe first off, Nishanth from University of Mississippi, maybe you could give us your perspective.
Malcolm, thank you for the opportunity. I serve as the Chief Information Officer for the University of Mississippi, and I'll say what the things you've covered are very relevant, more so in this day and age than it has been in the past. And while they've been pertinent to our institution, the priority has shifted quite drastically due to the pandemic. If I can address the items you brought up one at a time, I'll chat about student success for a brief moment. And I'll say from a persistence perspective, we do fairly well. We're about an 87% persistence rate and retention rate. So that is a good measure. We continuously work to improve it. There's the aspect of rate of completion and engagement that you mentioned. And while those do play in persistence, improving engagement will also improve rate of graduation, which is a critical measure, and then also the path to graduation. Those are things that we continuously work toward to help improve our students' timeline for graduation, because many students attend an institution and they're driven and distracted by many of the things that they haven't had to deal with before. Social events, for example, or other student organizations that pull them in, and so they adjust their course load to accommodate these additional extracurricular activities. And 4 years later, they wonder why they haven't been able to graduate, right? And so those are things that we're building to help assist them in their path to graduation, and model so that they can so-called simulate their path if they were to stay on their current program, switch programs, solutions that we've used from SAP, such as degree audit solutions. From a financial perspective, I'll say we're a little bit on a downward trend for enrollment over the past 2 to 3 years, and that's something we're working hard to change. There are leadership adjustments we're making, product adjustments that we're making, and these certainly didn't make it easier when this came about. I'll say too, from a reputation and affordability perspective, we're doing well on that side of it. We're ranked in the top 50 institutions, public institutions, for best value universities. And that's a good metric. That means we have a good program. We're on the lower side of the cost spectrum, and you get a good value when you leave because we're a recognized institution. The components of how students are evolving and what they expect from the university is something that we need to keep pace with. It's an aspect of students transition every 4 to 5 years. You have a completely new set of students, because about 20% of your students cycle in every year. However, your faculty and staff stay the same, right? Mostly unchanged. And the behaviors have to adjust with this evolving student profile. And when you mentioned external competition, so this is a new challenge in a different way. So external competition's always been there from an institutional perspective. However, in this pandemic, guess what? We're all challenged in new ways, and we've all converted our programs to be online, hybrid, remote learning, all of these new mediums that allow students to be place-bound and still attend class. What does that mean? That means now other states are reaching to our local students that in the past they weren't as interested in because they had local resources and were able to attract students from nearby. For us, we're now not only fighting for our in-state students, now we also are competing for out-of-state in a different way because we'd like to attract the students here for the programs that they choose to attend, and at the same time, give them a good value and make it so it's feasible and they have a good experience through it. But how do you do that? That's the piece that every university is trying to figure out to do well. And unfortunately, time is not on our side for changes like that.
I mean, one thing I'm seeing on the student engagement side, and measuring value or the experience is institutions are starting to get very granular about this. So they're starting to measure not just the student experience broadly, but also, you know, what's your experience of the admissions process? What's your experience of the financial aid process? What's your experience of the athletics program? What's your experience of the campus and student services? And then, of course, then taking that data and, you know, looking at how to improve those particular areas, right? And then, you know, looking at, again, as I said, best business practices, how do other universities do this? How do other countries do this? And really kind of getting down to the details, the nitty gritty of the experience, really breaking it down into really a series of experiences.
I will say the change in some of the things that have affected us drastically are something that the University of Mississippi is well known for is its football team. And in this scenario, we're not able to have the same level of attendance. We're not allowed to have tailgates. Tailgates were a big attraction. At peak, we'd have 80,000 to 100,000 people on our campus attending tailgates, right? Now that's zero. Those are factors that we're well known for, and we're not able to leverage to the same degree. So we have to creatively figure out how we approach those and still have the same outcome as we did before. So it's a significant challenge. The other piece you mentioned is the measurement of now silos of activities across our campus. And that's because of the availability of data, right? Solutions like the HANA databases that can process information so rapidly allow for ingesting of information, huge amounts of information to provide reports and data so that people can act on it. And so as a result, they're able to silo the things that they want to focus on and provide precise information to either drive outcomes or a report format of other sorts. I mean, in the things that we've had to do to change, right? One of the things when you traverse our campus, you'll see our food delivery robots, which weren't a thing before. And now you see dozens of them around our campus. You hit a stop sign and not only are vehicles stopped, there are robots stopped at the stop sign too, waiting to cross the sidewalk so they can get their food from wherever the student may have made a request and purchase to over to the student. So and it delivers everything from sandwiches to Chinese to Starbucks coffee. So you know, we're all evolving in different ways.
That's a very striking example, and a great example of the intelligent campus, right? So Nishanth, you're on a similar kind of journey, the S4 journey. How, I know you moved your ECC environment onto the business suite, as we called it, onto HANA. We call that a suite on HANA strategy. One of our more transparent terms, I think. How are you experiencing? Where are you on that journey, Nishanth, at Ole Miss?
At the end of last year, we started our conversations around the S4HANA project. And as you can imagine, with the pandemic, which started earlier this year, it redirected our efforts toward addressing immediate needs for the institution. So that's where we had to pay greatest amount of attention to address and remediate needs for our faculty, staff, and students. We've reached a point where we've been able to now revisit this topic. And at this point, we're looking to do a HANA 2.0 upgrade, which is slated to occur in the coming months. And that will put us on the path for S/4HANA. That's something that we are still restarting our conversations on, because a year later, for me and you, it's a familiar topic. For those outside of IT, the details of the conversation may have slipped off a little bit. And so it requires us to revisit that. And we're re-engaging with vendors in the space, partners and such, to start that back up. Some of the things you mentioned too, in terms of acceleration of projects and speed to implementation, that's a real thing too. The continuously changing landscape of technology, new products and services continuously popping up, and each one offering different values. And in order for us to remain competitive, not only are we watching our competitors and acting or reacting or planning, we also have to then put these solutions in place quickly, expediently, so we can start to experience their benefits immediately. One of the things that we're looking at is, we're in the process of doing through our sandbox and then eventually into our production environment, is Fiori. And Fiori is SAP's UX experience, right? The user experience piece of it. It helps individuals access SAP solutions in a more fluid and dynamic and easily accessible solution, more readily available on any platform. So that's something we're slowly going through as well. One of the things that SAP offers us, I'll say, in terms of this pandemic, we've all had to adapt and change, right? The platform also, through its flexibility, allows us to adapt and change with it. Where we were able to do things that we hadn't planned on, things that came up, questions that surfaced, and asks that came our way that said, are you able to provide this information or create this type of a solution for our institution? And our basic response is that if you can explain it, we can build it, right? And that's the approach we've been taking. And it allows for an amicable outcome. We're able to deliver what the institution's looking for. The faculty, staff, and students get what they need to continue their experiences in this space.
Lohit, would you share your thoughts on these topics, or others if they're priorities for you?
Yes, I'm welcome. So hi, this is Dr. Lohit Kapoor. I'm CTO, Chief Technology Officer for Srinidhi Educational Group. And for us, as a part of Srinidhi Education Group, we have been always focused on student success. So by student success, I mean there could be a multiple way by which we can see, I mean, student is achieving his success or not. So during this, COVID times, these were unprecedented circumstances for us. So post COVID, so still, lockdown is there and we are not having our classes. So what we have done is we have integrated our Zoom with our LMS. So now faculty, teachers, and everybody is using that part of technology, and they are very, good. They are using that particular technology in a very a good way.
I think people outside of our industry would be shocked at how little data or little reliable data universities are used to working with, and how that's had to dramatically change. When you said, now we have data. I remember actually it was an Indian customer who gave a presentation at their go live of an SAP environment, and that included our analytics capability. And it was a dean, not an IT guy, and he said, now I know exactly how many students I have. Right? And I think for people outside of our industry, they think, what? You don't know, but that the level of inaccessibility of data, inconsistency, siloed data, and so on, and a lot of that has kind of been swept away almost overnight. By it's been kind of a side effect of the COVID virus. Right.
Yes. So I mean, from SAP perspective also, we have started using SAP Analytics Cloud and very extensively.
Ah,
Even
yeah.
myself, I'm trying to understand that particular technology, and the data is with me now. So already we are into SAP S4 HANA, right? So that core data was with us last year only, but now this new kind of data has started coming due to this COVID
Yeah.
situation. So now we have data. So I mean, we have now endless amount of opportunities in front of us that we can utilize in order to make decision making in in a much better way. So this is what I can see, with this particular situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So regarding student engagement and outcomes, I already discussed that. I mean, how we are engaging our students. I mean, by sending some sort of random questions to them, getting feedbacks from them, and based on that, we are trying to develop some sort of framework by which we can guide them in a real-time manner by using artificial intelligence and machine learning. What this COVID thing has done to us is like our faculty has started putting more efforts on research activities. So research activities, innovations, and patent filing, all those things has been increased drastically. And what we can see from here is like, I mean, number of faculties, they are coming up with they are doing certifications like from Coursera or Udemy, and they are using these online learning platforms quite extensively. Because of this, so our institution name has come under Institutions Innovation Council. So we have been ranked 25th pan India by Government of India as far as from our innovation point of view. So our students and faculty,
Wow,
they
that's great.
they actually exploited this COVID sort of. They took it as an opportunity, and the result is like, I mean, we are on 25th rank.
Wow,
in pan India.
congratulations. That's a great achievement.
Yeah. Yes. Thank
That's
you.
a great achievement. Lohit, could you just unpack a little bit about, I don't know if you were using SAP ERP applications to begin with, so I don't know if there was a migration to S4, but could you say a little bit something about, I mean, you hinted at that in terms of data management. Could you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yes. So initially, I mean, 6 to 7 years back, we came to HANA. Earlier, we were using PHP based some legacy software. So the biggest challenge at that point of time was the consistency of that particular software. So data was not consistent. Security aspects were coming. Uh, uh, Bandwidth, real-time performance. So all these things were there. So because of that matter, what we have decided to move towards SAP as our ERP, so our core ERP. At that time, we used SAP's older version, that is ECC, and 2 years back we have. It's not actually migration, but what we'll say, we have re-implemented. So we implemented each and everything. Currently, we are having, I mean, multiple modules with us. So right from SLCM to MM to PM to FICO, FICA. So success factor also we have incorporated. Under success factor, we have Employee Central, and recently we are planning to go with PMGM, and of course SSE already, because I'm very very keen to know about machine learning and data analytics sort of stuff. So we have procured SSE a few years back. So now what is happening is like, I mean, we work very hard with SuneraTech, and SuneraTech has actually helped us to understand what kind of business problems that can be solved by using SAP ERP system. So the re-implementation that we have done was, I mean, was in a time-bound manner. So that was, I think, that took only 3 to 4 months, and just I came to know that that was a record time. I mean, we have so much of modules with us, 5 to 6 modules with us, and they re-implemented all those modules, and without compromising the integrity of that data. So that was, commendable job from them.
Thank you, Lohit, for that insight. I'm particularly intrigued by what you and Nishanth have said about automation and artificial intelligence. We are seeing that COVID has really, I think, accelerated and propelled that. Right, everybody knows what RPA is now, right? Robotic process automation.
Yes.
A well-known, and has become a well-known acronym, right?
Yes.
Interesting world. Thank you. So next, I'd like to call on Ashish for his insights. I should express an interest here somewhat, because I've known Ashish for many years. He was one of my first customers in India. So at this point, yeah, we would love to hear from Ashish.
Hi, Malcolm, and hi, Nishanth and Lohit. So my name is Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj. I work currently with Laureate, Australia and New Zealand as Director of IT. So I lead the technology and digital transformation functions there, along with a lot of other initiatives in terms of product innovation and so on and so forth. So I think this is a very interesting area to be talking about, and we live in very interesting times at the moment, thanks to COVID. So I would say from a Laureate ANZ perspective, we're really focused on the student experience, and that we've taken and done some very interesting things also to kind of make that happen in a COVID era. To give you an example of personalized learning, how that would work, and if I take an example of fundamentals of marketing, Marketing 101. So Philip Kotler is one of the authorities on the subject. He's got a textbook. I come to class, which is let's say an MBA class, where I'm learning this subject, and I have a cohort of 50 people with me. And essentially, through my learning platform, the way that the course is going to be presented to me is going to be different than the way it's going to be presented to the other 49 people in my class. And what are the metrics and what are the parameters that kind of drive that? It is A, profile of the student, of the learner, B, past experience, C, an assessment of past knowledge, D, an assessment of aptitude in terms of how do they learn best, and so on and so forth. So the multiple metrics kind of go into a fairly complex algorithm that kind of computes that, and would then be able to constantly measure how each learner is engaging with that learning management platform. And this, I'm not talking just point of time statistics. I'm talking about things like how they're actually engaging in a series of events, right? So you're actually capturing, okay, they logged in, they went to page X, page Y, saw article Z, saw part of a video, came back, tried to answer the question. They spent, this much of time on this question, went back to it 3 times before they finally managed to answer it. They got it wrong the first time, but then they went back and again tried to do that. And this time they got it right? And so on and so forth. And then essentially gauges how effective are the outcomes in terms of learning outcomes for that student based on whatever personalized instruction the student has been through. And this would, of course, involve a whole set of technologies at the back end, ranging from analytics to predictive models to slicing and dicing in terms of instructional design of content, and so on and so forth. So that essentially in a nutshell is.
It's interesting you say that, because when customers or potential customers also ask me, well, does your system do this or this? I always say, look, we've been writing code for 45 years for 25 industries, right? So the answer is almost certainly yes. It can be done in SAP. Not universally the case, of course, but that is a lot of capability. Right. And I also, what you were saying about implementing solutions and getting immediate value, I think has always been a strategy I've recommended. When customers ask me for advice on, okay, we're implementing ERP, when should we start? I always say, start with what will add immediate value and be visible to your senior leadership, right? Because they're the ones signing the checks for this. And you've got to deliver value not only to your customers, students, and your faculty and employees, but also it's got to be immediately visible to your senior leadership. This, by the way, is where analytics is often the low-hanging fruit, right? If you can now provide your leadership with the visibility and, as I say, to my earlier, reference to the customer said, now I know how many students I have. I think universities are in a better place now, but that kind of basic data is not always accessible. And I always say, make sure that that is what your leadership sees coming out of the ERP system. Don't wait for it to go live before you do that. Make that really on the front end, of your project. And I totally agree. And of course, cloud applications are very much, built. The premise of them is that they are fast to implement and deliver rapid value, right? That it doesn't involve, a year of implementation, configuration, process re-engineering and whatnot. That time to market for us and for you also has become very critical. Ashish, both Lohit and Nishanth have talked about the digital journey, and I posed a kind of a very simple digital path. Could you tell us where you are in terms of your digital journey and what you see as the kind of the end goal of that, or will it be an ongoing project? What is in the end the purpose of the digital platform, the innovation platform? Where are you on that journey? What kind of tools are you using to facilitate that? And where do you see the eventual impact and value in teaching, in research, and in terms of operations, including the automation of some operations? Could you give us some insight into that digitization process?
I think it's really a combination of a whole bunch of things, and I'll tell you why that happens. Because I'm a science fiction fan, and I remember when I was growing up, I would read about self-ordering fridges and flying cars, which existed more than 2 decades ago in science fiction novels and movies. These are technically feasible today, but they haven't really taken off in terms of mainstream adoption. Whereas something like a digital voice assistant like an Amazon Echo and Alexa certainly has. So you find it on people's wrists, you find it on people's speakers, you find it all over the place. So the idea really is that technology of various sorts can make headlines, but what makes technology transformative is on how it's actually used, right? And that's where I think COVID has really forced an accelerated era of digital transformation across industries globally, right? So people have been forced to rethink fundamentals of established practices. I'll give you a small example of disaster recovery. You would take disasters to strike in a particular geographical region, and therefore if you have something in a different continent or a backup site in a different geolocation, you're deemed to be safe. Now what happens if there's a global pandemic and no location can be accessed by any employee because every country is in lockdown? So your disaster recovery plans go for a 6. Right? So I think from that perspective and a digital transformation perspective, really COVID has forced organizations, and particularly higher education, to accelerate the pace of transformation and to really rethink ways of how pedagogy is used, how technology is used, how matrices are evaluated, and so on and so forth. Technologies like personalized learning. So every student, as you know, every learner would learn in a different way, and they have different backgrounds of prior information on a particular subject, right? So if I can now actually start delivering them education in the way that they learn best, and I'm able to give that to them on any device, anywhere, 24/7, and my faculty and academic processes and pedagogy and everything else is completely aligned with that, to give the student that seamless and good quality experience. I think that's where you have truly made a whole bunch of processes digital, and therefore you've actually gone and transform the organization in that journey digitally, right? So that's where I think is the nirvana as of now. And that doesn't have to stop there, right? Because once you've achieved that, you'll obviously want to deepen the level of insights that you're getting out of it. You want to do a whole bunch of things to build on that. And I think that's where the key value is going to be coming in as far as the institution is concerned. So make the institution truly data driven, insight driven. So it should not be data rich, but insight poor.
Any other thoughts? Kind of wrap up thoughts. Lohit, Nishanth, any final thoughts that have come to mind as we've been discussing this, or points you'd like to raise?
I can share a quick thought on the point you brought up about digitization, digitalization, and the digital transformation. And now's our chance as institutions to take that leap, right? We've typically been apprehensive in moving our technology initiatives forward as much as we've needed to, because we've had other priorities. When you're meeting in person and you have traditional classroom setups, the technology needs, you can work around them. In this new modern era, or in this post-pandemic era that we'll eventually get to, we don't know what that final state looks like. So plan, prepare, and have something ready, so when you do face whatever that challenge is, you're prepared with a solution. When the pandemic began, right, we were all racing for laptops, cameras, webcams, and such, and the supply chain was dry. Everybody was out, right? The supply chain is starting to get repopulated with all of the equipment. So now's a chance to take advantage of it, plan, do the things you need to, and try to stay ahead so you're not on the same procurement cycle as everybody else, and you're all fighting for the same thing at the same time, and having to, somebody has to be without it at that point if you end up with that. So we've experienced enough that we should have good insight to be able to plan a little bit ahead, is my parting words. Thank you, Malcolm.
As you can probably tell, I think these topics are absolutely fascinating, and I think this is obviously a very difficult time, but not an impossible time in higher education. And what used to be impossible is now simply very difficult. So there's been, I think, some acceleration of improvement and digitization. But so we could talk about this. I could certainly talk about it for a long time. This has been a great discussion. I want to thank the panelists and to wrap this up at that point. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you. I think it's been an absolute pleasure. Great discussion, great conversation. Malcolm, always good to see you, as always. Nishanth and Lohit, good to see you as well, to connect. Thanks, SuneraTech, for organizing this. I thoroughly enjoyed myself with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm, and the other panelists for the great insights and asking the right questions. And I thoroughly enjoyed the conversations and hope it was the same with the audience. Nishanth, I'm super excited to visit your smart campus to meet the rovers for coffee. Ashish, thank you for demystifying the personalized learning and defining the nirvana state for digitization. Lohit, it's great to hear, as usual, your great digital transformation journey and how SuneraTech has played a role in the journey. I'm pleased to share some of our customer success stories and how the digital transformation improved their operational efficiencies in the real time. Here is one of our customers, Trinity Educational Group transformation journey, where the benefits are evident. This shows how SAP has helped to improve their operational efficiency. To give an example, it improved 20 to 25% of enrollment time. That means faster response to the applicants across their multiple schools, and 30% improvement in preparation of their statutory reports. A thought leader, our thought leadership is evolved over a decade of experience, enabling universities to become smarter. Here are the snapshot of the metrics to prove our expertise, with not just about automation and simply implementation, but actually helping the customers to improve the business efficiency. Our list of SAP student lifecycle management customers across United States, India, South Asia. So this is just a snapshot of, how many number of customers we have been providing support in this particular space. So finally, I would like to offer you a 2-day free assessment and advisory service. This is just to help our customers during this pandemic time. This is our support to your business. What you have to do is just get in touch with us and we will help you in your transformation journey. Don't worry, there are no commitments. What you get at the end of this service is a digital roadmap. That includes how you can actually self-fund yourself the whole of the transformation journey, and what are the areas of optimization, and how do we move to the S/4HANA roadmap, and so on and so forth. And thank you very much for all your time and patience. That's all from this session. I'll now request my colleague Ram Mohan to take over the session. Thank you very much once again.